All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kabbalah Café. It is great to see you, Norm. Good to see you. Shavua Tov, as always.
What's the rush?
Time is of the essence. That's my pun, because the conversation is about time and about the Kabbalah of Time. So time is of the essence. That's the whole thing. So here we go. Today we talk about time and the construct of time. So I want to begin. You don't have time for this. All right. I hope you can make time for a conversation about time. Hey, Jeff. Good to see you. Hope you enjoy our new bagel selection. Okay, here we go. So when it comes to time, the first thing we know in Kabbalah is that time is a creation, which means time, hey, Elaine, good to see you, which means time is not something that is a given or is an absolute. It's something that is manufactured. And like anything manufactured, there was a decision made. Should it be manufactured? Should not be manufactured? It was made for a purpose, but it didn't always exist. I know that's a weird thing to say about time, because literally always is use the language of time, but it didn't always exist. In fact, we know famously, it says in Pirkei Avot, chapter 5, the 5th chapter of Ethics of the Fathers, it says, Ba'asara mamarot nivra ha'olam, with 10 utterances was the world created, right? 10 utterances. What does that mean? 10 times in the account of Bereshis, the account of Genesis, does the Torah tell us that God said, let there be, and there was. By the way, I skipped the details, right? God said, let there be light. God said, let there be a rakia, firmament. It's a firmament, a rakia. Yeah, absolutely. Day 1, God said this. Day 2, God said that. Day 3. 10 times we find the phrase, Vayomer Elokim Yehi. And God said, let there be X, Y, Z. I don't know why I started at the end. I'm out of letters now. A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. This episode of Kabbalah Café is sponsored by Sesame Street and the letter Y. Right. Oh, and the number 4, or as it were. Remember those? Sesame Street? Fantastic show. Back to the story. Before your time?
Yeah.
Nice.
My kids' time, but not mine.
Got it. Okay, so what's the point? The point is that there's 10 times, sages say, that God says, let there be whatever, and there was whatever God said there was. However, when you actually crack open the book, never trust the rabbis, right? Fact check. What is this? They say 10 times there's 10 utterances. They say there are 10 utterances, 10 times Vayomer Elokim. You open up the book, and when I say the book, I mean the good book, i.e. the most published book in all of history, the Bible. You open it up, and you'll find 9 times it says, and God said, let there be. 9 times. My friends, 9 is very close to 10. It's very close, but it's not exactly 10. Now, this is not horseshoes, right? It's not like, all right, we're rounding up. It's like when you go to the cashier at Kroger or Publix or whatever it is, would you like to round up for the children? Sure. Would you like to round up for the utterances? Yes. I'm at 9 utterances. Would you like to round up for the utterances? Yes. Here's 10. Look, what is this? What's going on? You can't round up for the utterances. So famously, the sages say, I don't know if this is the Talmud or the Medrash or whatever, somewhere it says, Bereshis or Bereshit, Nami Maimerhu. Bereshis, the first word of the Torah in the beginning, is also one of the utterances. It's not preceded by, and God said, let there be. But nonetheless, the opening word, Bereshis, in the beginning, that itself is also one of the utterances. On what? Now, with every utterance, we know what it makes, right? We know what happens. God said, let there be light. There was light. God said, let there be a heaven. There was a heaven. God said, let there be separation of the waters. And there was. So every time God says something, and he specifies what there should be, and then that happens. But what happens when God says Bereshis or Bereshit in the beginning? What happens then? The answer is, as Kabbalah explains, the very word Bereshis in the beginning implies time. Correct? If you use a word like in the beginning, or even as Rashi explains.
So that was the creation of time.
Oh, there you go. Cutting to the chase. That was the creation. Oh, you're good. That was the creation. Yes, that was the creation of time. Now, so hear this for a second. Rashi translates, by the way, the opening verse of the Torah very different than the way it's typically understood in English. Typically, the English translation of the first verse of the Torah is, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. In the beginning, God created, first thing God did was he created heaven and earth. Rashi says, no, that's not how you read it. And by the way, we're supposed to study Torah according to Rashi. And yet I feel like no one knows Rashi on the first verse. Not no one knows, but like we somehow gloss over it. Rashi says that's not the meaning of the verse. It doesn't mean in the beginning God created. He says, read it differently. He says, in the beginning of God's creation of heaven and earth, when the earth was desolate and the spirit was hovering over the water, then God said, let there be light. That's how it's a running start. It's not in the beginning God created heaven and earth. In the beginning of God's creation, he says, based on Hebrew grammar, that must be that's the meaning of Torah. In the beginning of God's creation of heaven and earth, when the earth was desolate and the Spirit of God was over the face of the water, etc., then God said, let there be light, and there was light. Is it a radical difference? No, but I figured I'd just point it out because we're talking about the opening verse anyway. Point is that in the beginning, whether we read it as in the beginning God created or in the beginning of God's creation, either way, we're talking about beginnings. And as Jeff pointed out, if you use the word beginning, that implies time, which means, as the commentators explain and as Kabbalahs we'll see today elaborates on it in great depth, the idea is that time has a beginning. Time itself has a beginning. There wasn't always time. Now, you and I, what's wild about this will literally hurt your brain, possibly, right? Try to imagine a reality beyond time, divorced from time, transcending time. Imagine a reality that doesn't have time as a component. It's almost impossible because we live in such a linear universe. We live in such we live in a space. By the way, time and space were created together. We live in a reality where time is a given. It's like this, what I said a moment ago was a moment ago, and now it's now, and what I will do in the future hasn't happened yet. We live in a reality in which time is absolute. We're stuck by the parameters of time and space. Time and space, man and makom, come together. Time and space are twins. Yeah.
What happened before in the beginning?
Good. So now we talk about God. What is beyond the beginning? Beyond the beginning is a reality in which there is no time. And when we talk about a reality in which there's no time, what that means is not that it can, not that God can, or the reality beyond time can move back and forth through time. It's that time doesn't exist in that paradigm. It's almost like, and I've used this example many times in many different contexts, including in the context of time conversation. It's like, imagine if you're creating a world, you're creating a game, you're coding software, whatever it is, and you create a reality. You create a program, software, a game, a world in which there are certain rules and parameters. You are not bound by those parameters that you've created. You've created those for your characters, but you're certainly not bound by those that you've created. You've created it, right? Or the other example that I always give is like soccer. Whoever invented the game of soccer, yeah, right? You can't use your hands if you're not the goalie, right? You can't use your hands. Guess what? At dinner that night, he probably used his hands. It's not like once you create the rule for soccer, hands don't exist anymore. You can't use hands. Now, in a certain context, in a certain framework, in the sandbox of soccer, you can't use your hands. In the sandbox of our reality, of created reality, time is a thing. And outside and beyond that, time is not a thing. But we can't wrap our heads, because time and space are so fundamental to our reality, we can't even imagine what it would be like without time. And that's why I always say that even when you have like science fiction novels or whatever it is, and they discuss like time travel and everything, it's always still tethered to time. Even time travel is somehow tethered in the reality of time. It's like, since we're in time, what would it look like if we could move around within time? But it's still taking time as a given. But try to talk about a reality beyond time altogether. No one has even the language for that. And you don't have language for that because you can't imagine. You can't even fathom. I don't mean you, me, none of us. No human being can fathom a reality outside of time. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Like time is so part of the fabric of reality. It's like you can't imagine it not being. Okay, but here's what we know. We certainly can't say that God is limited to time just because we are. That's very arrogant to say, well, listen, we're limited to time. So whatever God we imagine must also be limited to time, because We can't make God bigger than that. God can't be bigger than time. Yes, God can be bigger than time. God is bigger than time. God creates time. That's the first creation, time and space. And then God creates within that time and space, God creates greater reality. But God is not limited to that. One way to understand this, oh, David's asking the real question. How long do you bake and at what temperature? The kugel.
325 till it's ready.
I sometimes bake it at 400. We go all in, go for broke. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes you got to go for broke.
That's serious, boy.
Yeah. Listen. Some people drive Volvos. Some people drive Lamborghinis. Just saying. You got to gun it sometimes. You just go all in. This is take off the safety restraints. Take off the harness. That's it. We're going all in. This Kugel. The Lamborghini of Kugels, yes, or Lamborghini Kugel, TM.
So at what temperature and for how long, Rabbi?
That's literally the question. So sometimes,
does time really matter when it comes to
does time matter when it comes to Kugel?
That's what
exactly. That's the whole point of the Thank you very much. That's the whole point of the class. What is time even? What is temperature? No, temperature is real. Sometimes I'll bake it on. You could do 350, 375, even up to 400. It depends on your oven.
Cookies would be burnt at 400.
No, don't bake. Don't bake like this. No,
okay.
Don't bake cookies.
Oh, okay.
No, cookies are different.
Okay.
No, kugel, you have some more leeway. Kugel, you have absolutely more leeway. I've made many a kugel over the years. Anywhere between an hour and a half. It's usually around an hour and a half. Depending on the temperature, it really depends on the oven. So experiment, but it's usually between 350 and 400, around an hour and a half. Find your magical.
What kind of kugel is this?
Thank you.
Pleasure.
How many potatoes?
I'll share the recipe soon. I posted it before, so that's why they're looking at it. But I'll post it now. I could, if whoever wants it, happy to share. Now on the recap. Oh, okay. Now. Back to the story. So God is not limited by time. To say that God is limited by time is very arrogant because it's very presumptuous. To say, I'm limited by time, so God's limited by time. God is not limited by time. God is beyond time. So how do we understand this? Again, the human brain really can't fathom this because the human brain is literally a product of time, the world of time. And so go imagine something beyond your origin. How can you imagine something that's higher than where you come from? You can't. Like, we're born post-time. Like, we exist in the realm of time and forward. So how can you imagine something beyond that divide? It's almost like a sheer wall that divides, that like demarcates our beginning or the beginning of all created reality, and go try to scale that sheer wall. How are you going to scale that and hop over the other side to peer out over, oh, that's what it looks like? You can't get back there. You can't go beyond your origin. Not you, me, all of us. No one can go beyond their origin. So how are you going to go back? So the truth is we can't. But at least what I'll share is some thoughts in Kabbalah and Hasidic philosophy on the matter of what it might be like to transcend time. Now, I don't mean like gear up, put on your flying suit and your time travel, helmet, and let me take you on a journey. But what does it look like? What does it feel like? What is the reality like? So here we go. Here's what it says. I'm going to use an example that Kabbalah brings. It's actually, not original Kabbalah. You're not going to find this in original Kabbalistic work, but you'll find talking about this. The best example that I can give, or the best way to get started, is example again that we've used before, is the example of a flip book. I have here actually the text that we're studying. But imagine if this were is that what it's called, a flip book? Is that a thing? Where you have the character on a bicycle and you flip it through and they're riding the bicycle? You know what I'm talking about? If you flip it, you flip the pages quickly. It's like, I just studied a discourse. No, I'm kidding. Right? You flip it through. Oh, 1 second. Hold on. So what happens? So the way you do it is on each page, right? You would draw the same character. Let's talk about a stick figure who's riding a bicycle. So the first one you would draw the stick figure on the bicycle, and then the legs start moving, and then as you each page slightly different, and then when you flip through it quickly, it looks like it's riding the bike, and then maybe it's doing a triathlon, and then maybe it's running, and then maybe it's swimming, and then
it's called the Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
What's that?
That's how.
No, you went into a Nickelodeon and you would look in a viewer and turn the handle, would turn those cards.
Got it.
And
The
you would-
moving pictures.
It's moving.
Literally.
It's before.
Literally the word motion picture.
That's how it started.
What's pshat? What's the meaning of motion picture? A picture is a still. Motion picture is you're doing or you're showing a series of stills in rapid progression. By the way, all film today to this very day is still shot in the same way. For example, on a phone, right? You look up the specs, you can adjust your video settings. How many FPS do you want when you shoot video? FPS stands for frames per second. Frames per second. What's shot frames per second? If it's 24, I think TV is what, 24, 27 or 27 point something, whatever.
I think I don't know about the point. I know 24.
24. So if TV is 24 frames per second, you can do 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. What does that mean? How many stills is it taking per second? The more stills it takes per second, the smoother the action is going to be, and the more memory it takes in your phone. So then you have to make a choice. Do I want it really smooth? Do I want to be able to use my phone and have the space? Whatever, that's a consideration. The point is that to this day, video, film, right? Video is shot the same way, frames per second, which means that anytime you're watching a video, what's actually happening is not that the motion is really fluid. It's a series of still images played in rapid sequence so that the human eye does not detect the jump between it. If you only had 1 frame per second, it would look very much robotic, right? It would look like the robot dance, which I'm not prepared to do.
And that's where they
Fully.
got subliminal advertising from.
There you go.
They would stick a frame in,
Right.
like
Be a communist.
No, frame in at the movies was really designed to get you to the snack bar.
Ah, there you go.
You know, they would shoot a frame of a Coke with popcorn and just put it in your mind.
That's it.
And it goes by so quickly you can't detect it.
I prefer the ones where you play the record backwards and the next
Oh,
thing you
yeah,
know, you're
that's
turning a
you're
satanic
communist.
cult. That's what, I mean, that's kind of my,
But that's more
My
popular in Canada.
this
so.
is true. All right, so back to the story. The story is that imagine the flip book. We're just gonna use a flip book because it's a little more tangible. I'm holding something in my hands right now. So imagine this is a flip book. Imagine I turn to a random page and I see dude on a bike, you know, in one position, in one frame of the motion. Great, paused it right there. What we see with this is that every moment, every segment of motion is really one frame. If we imagine time in the same way, well, what that means is that time is not a fluid movement, but it's rather a series of moments played in rapid succession. This is the way Kabbalah explains time. It's not that God created time and it's running, but God creates time one frame at a time. Let me explain that. One of the major teachings that the Baal Shem Tov emphasized, and the Baal Shem Tov's birthday was yesterday, the founder of the Chassidic movement. One of the things that he really emphasized is the Alter Rebbe, who is the founder of Chabad, whose birthday was yesterday. He writes about this extensively in his second part of Tanya called Shar HaYichud Be'emunah. So one of the things that he emphasizes, that they both emphasize, is the notion, and it's very important, of constant creation. What is the notion of constant creation? It's that God didn't create the universe once and then press play and then it's running, but rather at every single moment, which is again a time word, but at every moment, God is recreating everything, or God is creating it.
Except
The example-
Shabbos.
No, even Shabbos.
I thought Shabbos he was on
No,
autopilot.
no, he's still creating. It's the big lie of Shabbos.
I thought
You
he
can't
had
say.
it on autopilot
No.
on Shabbos.
No, nothing can be an autopilot. Can't be. Can't be. The world wouldn't exist. Now, the way the Alter Rebbe describes it is like this. He said there are those philosophers who believe erroneously that God created the world once upon a time and is now not involved, and now it just runs on its own. That's not true. And he says the reason that these great philosophers made this big error in conceiving of how God creates the world and God's involvement in creation constantly is because they likened it to the creation of a human being. A human being can create something and walk away from it, right? You can publish this book, you can print this book, and you can walk away from it, and it still sits here, and it still exists. No one touches it, and it still exists. You can create a phone, it still exists. Create a computer, it still exists. A camera, it still exists. It doesn't disappear when you step away from it. You can paint. You can paint some artwork, right? You can be an artist. You can paint a beautiful, beautiful painting. You walk out of the room, it still exists. He says this is the mistake that the philosophers made in comparing God's creation of the universe, which is what we call in Kabbalah, yesh me'ayin, something from nothing, to the creation of human beings, which is always yesh me'yesh, yesh me'yesh, something from something. When you create something from something, you didn't actually create it, you just moved it around. Therefore, you can walk away, it still exists. It existed before your involvement, it'll exist after your involvement, right? If you take paint and put it on a canvas, the paint existed before you. The canvas, when I say before you, outside of you. The canvas existed outside. You didn't make the paint. You didn't, even if you made it, all it means is you took ingredients and mixed it together. It was already there. The substance was already there. Therefore, you didn't create it. It doesn't need you. You're the one that rearranges it, not to diminish that. That's highly creative and highly artistic. Sure. But you didn't create it. It doesn't need you to for its very existence. Whereas if you were to create something from nothing, out of nowhere, it would constantly need your input to exist. Why? Because you're forcing something into existence out of non-existence, which means you're forcing it against its nature, which means if that's going to happen, if you're forcing something against its nature, that force constantly has to be. Otherwise, it will revert back to its nature, which is nothingness. The nature of existence is non-existence. To force it into existence, you need a constant push of animation to make it exist. Does that make sense?
One static and the other. Yeah.
Correct. Dynamic. Now, if you think about it, using the example, so he brings the example. He says a rock, a stone. You take a stone and you throw it into the air, right? You take a stone and you throw it into the air. So what's happening? So the nature of the stone is to be inert, is to sit still on the ground. A nature of the stone is not to be flying in the air, right? A flying stone, I don't know.
Was thrown by an Arab.
Well, could be.
Asking David.
Asking David, right? But the point is that a flying stone is not a normal thing. It's not a natural thing. It's something that is against the nature of the stone, because gravity, right? Basic law of physics, that an object at rest will stay at rest unless there's a force that overwhelms its natural state of rest. So if you take the rock, or in the case of, I don't know, it's Sunday, so you take a football, right? We can log that also. Take a football, throw it into the air. So now it's flying. It doesn't become a flying football. You didn't transform the football into a flying football. Like there are some footballs that don't fly. Some that have been gifted with the power of flight, and now it's a flying football. It's not a flying football. It's the same football that doesn't fly. So how's it flying? Because there's a force that's overwhelming it, that's forcing it into the air. It's not flying. The force is making it fly. The world doesn't exist. God is making it exist. Does that make sense? The nature of the world, the nature of existence is non-existence. The yesh, the isness of this world is actually ayin, is actually non-existence. Yes? This is way up there in the ranks of Kabbalistic theory.
That's why they tell us not to study Kabbalah, make our brains explode.
Hopefully nothing's going to explode, right?
Not this time.
Put away the beepers.
Not
right?
this time.
So here's the deal. Huh?
Not this time.
How do you explain recreation?
So 1 second. So the way it works is like this. That the nature of existence is non-existence. Nothing, it's not like everyone knows the famous joke, right? Where the scientists come to God, the scientists say to God, we don't need you anymore. That's just what he means. So we figure out how to create life. Life? Yeah, we can create life. We can manufacture life. In the laboratory, we actually don't need God, we don't need you anymore. That says, interesting. Shall we do a contest? They say, yes, we're ready to go. God says, old school, like create life from earth, like create man from earth. Yeah, and say, yeah, we can do it. God says, go ahead. And the scientists go outside and collect some earth, and God says, 1 second, and get your own earth. Right? It's easy to create something from something because it's already here. So all creation, everything that human beings have ever created has always come from somewhere. Oh, we created medicine, antibiotics, it came from somewhere. Again, not to diminish the creativity and the accomplishment and the science and whatever the technology, not diminishing anything, just stating facts. Everything that any human being has ever created has always been yesh, meyesh, something from something. No one walked into a room with nothing and created something out of thin air. And if they did, it wasn't
the thin air.
They used the thin air, number one,
The thin air.
or it was a magic trick. And don't believe your eyes deceived you, right? Pulling a rabbit out of a hat when it didn't exist is not possible, right? The point is,
Unless you're a magician.
the human beings, right? The human beings always, the way we create is yesh, meyesh. That's why the Ramban, ala Torah, Nachmanides, on the Torah says that the word bria, bereshit bara, look at now we'll analyze the second word in the Torah. In the beginning, God created, bara created. The word created has a meaning in Hebrew. It only means exclusively when you create something from nothing. If you create something from something, it's called yitzira. It's called forming, shaping, manipulating. It's not called bria.
So man
Creation.
was formed.
Huh?
Man was formed then. Was not created from
Vayitzar Adam from an Adam.
From the dirt.
I think this is Vayitzar. Could also say Vayivra, but that could mean the creation maybe of the soul. Let's hold on for that for a second. The point is that the Ramban says that the word creation only applies when you're actually creating. Otherwise, don't call it creation. Again, you and I in human language, you can say, wow, that design is so creative. Wow, that logo is super creative, or that painting is very creative. We'll use creative, and I'm not, this is not policing language. We can use it, and we can use it and be very happy with using the word creative. That's fine. But in Kabbalah, bria, the word in Hebrew, bria, which we translate in English as creation, has a very specific meaning. It means when you create something from absolute nothingness. It didn't, if it existed and then you twisted it, great, it's a different word. Bria means something from nothing, which means, as we all know, the only one that can create Bria is God. No human being creates something, can't create something from nothing. Put a person in a room with no materials. Again, the thin air is a material, I guess, but like you can't create something. Just like we can't imagine a time before time, we can't imagine what it's like to create from nothing. Yesh me'ayin. It can't exist. It doesn't make sense. That's why the Alter Rebbe says that when human beings try to apply their paradigms of creation onto God, you get weird results. You're applying one paradigm to a different paradigm. You're saying, well, I painted this work of art and I was able to walk away and it stood. I built this building. I built this tower, right? I built this high rise and I walked away and it's still there. So why couldn't God have created the world and walked away? And it's like, your creation you can walk away from because you didn't create it. You shaped it. You molded it. You modified it. You twisted it. You turned it, not taking away anything. But you didn't create it in the Hebrew term, bria. You didn't make it from nothing. Therefore, it doesn't need you. God already makes it into something. You just moved it around. You moved around some molecules. Great. That's wonderful. It doesn't need you. You know who it needs? God, because God is making it from nothing into something in this moment. And like the football, if there's not a force propelling in the air, it comes back down to earth. Hopefully in the hands of a receiver who's strolling in for the touchdown for your favorite team. We had a few questions. We're just going to go around the horn. Yeah.
Seems to me that's an argument for the philosophers. So God created in the beginning, then nature, I would say, continues to create, whether it's a tree and plant, the seeds fall out of the tree and other trees born, or procreation of humans. So once it's the original creation, I'll call it, it seems like things are in motion.
Right, that's how it seems. And so Kabbalah comes along and says, don't trust your eyes. What do I mean by that? There's no such thing in a reality created something from nothing. There's no such thing as something just being. It's almost like, imagine somebody walks into a movie theater and the film is playing, and we know how it plays, right? There's a projector in the back that's shining a light. Imagine someone in the projector room up there says, oh, the film started. I could just unplug this. Oh, you unplug it, there's no film anymore. But it was already in motion. That's not how it works. There constantly needs to be light has to be emitted constantly for that image to appear. Or go even a little bit deeper, not deeper, go a little even more maybe creatively when they have concerts now. They've done it now for like probably a decade plus, where they have 3D holograms of artists. I think the first one was Tupac, the rapper. But now they have I don't know, Michael Jackson, and they have others, right? You can
bring them back to life. You're talking about the holograms.
They seem like
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley, the king. By the way,
he's still alive.
Elvis, switch around the letters. Elvis lives. I'm just saying the letters.
I agree. I'm with that.
I'm just saying. But the point is that when
those
you
are
have
the people that think we landed on the moon,
right? When you have something that looks very real, but then you unplug the light source, it's all light. It's so interesting because the Kabbalists, they loved using the phrase light. I don't know if they knew, they didn't know, whatever. It's interesting how today, when you want to create images, what looks seemingly like life and movement and reality, we also do it through light. But the light is nothing but the source. If you shut down the source and there's no emission, there's no emittance or whatever it is of light, there's no issuance of light, then your hologram disappears, your movie stops, nothing exists.
Talked about can't happen without God.
The key is there's no such thing as autopilot. Autopilot is it's our imagination of thinking that a movie just runs without frames. Someone had to create, like back in the day, what was the Looney Tunes or whatever it was, like back in the day, right? Like someone had to hand paint every single frame. It didn't just happen. It's not like, oh, and even today, when it just happens, it's also creating it. Just computers are doing it. The point is, AI or whatever it is. But like someone back in the day had to draw every frame. You want to tell us, imagine you see it, like, oh yeah, that was easy. Someone it started and then it's flowing. It just started to flow. Someone literally had to hand paint, hand draw, color in, paint every single frame. I wonder.
Call animators.
Animators. Yeah, literally. Good word. Animators.
I think animators came before film.
God is the ultimate animator.
So if it's created, two questions. If it's created one frame at a time,
yes,
then we have an ability to change the next frame.
Oh yeah.
Hold on. We're gonna get there.
And then I have one more question. Well, it's not really a question actually, unless you know the answer. I saw a Jewish comedian. He was funny. He was talking about creation. We created the heavens, the earth, the animals, the earth. And then it created woman. And he says, okay, give me a rib. And it's like, why now can you not create woman from nothing? Why do you need my rib? So do we know Kabbalistically what the rationale?
So the whole rib thing is actually a little bit of a misnomer. That's not exactly the way it worked. If you do a careful reading of the Torah text itself, and you look at the commentaries, it seems more like the first person, the first human being was created male and female back to back.
Right.
So imagine like one there and one like back to back, but fused together.
Oh God, talk about a backseat driver.
Right. And so God not almost, but separates.
Right.
It doesn't say that.
So man wasn't created before?
It says Zachar u'nekeva bara otam. Male and female, he created them. Seems like from the beginning. So, and then God separates the two so that they can, instead of being back to back, they can actually join face to face.
Why is it common thought that there was a rib,
I don't know.
Isn't that in the Bible too? Aren't there two ways?
There are two accounts. Chapter 1, chapter 2. Yeah, we have to look back at it. my understanding is that
Right, it's
the
okay.
rib thing is not necessarily
Okay.
the way we understand it.
I thought in anatomy that a man has one less rib.
Could be.
No, it's a myth. That's what he was saying. He believed that all his life until he spoke to doctors. So no, men have the same number of ribs as women.
Right.
They
That
also
was-
say that there are 613 seeds in every pomegranate.
By the way, that's also a misnomer. The Gemara says, the Talmud says that every Jew is filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. Meaning, just like a pomegranate has tons of seeds, so too every Jew, no matter who, no matter what, where, whenever, everyone's doing plenty of good deeds. Don't worry, you should love the other because they're doing plenty of good deeds. It never says that there's exactly 613. That's also something that is a misconstruction. But someone else had a question. Did you? Yeah, Norm.
It says, now maybe I'm missing something in translation. God forms light and creates darkness. So he's
Right.
creating light or forming light from other elements.
Interesting. You're right. That's in the morning prayers. You say Yotzer Ar Ubarach Hosher. He forms light and creates darkness, which puts darkness
Yes, but those
on
are
a
just-
higher level almost.
But those are just the words of somebody writing the tefillah.
Oh, so Jeff is saying maybe it's not the biblical language that has the same precision. However, Kabbalah does explain that what the prayers are alluding to, because creation is higher than formation, as we've said. Creation is something monumental, whereas formation is just, moving things around. Darkness actually has a higher source than light. And to understand that, we'll need another class. So that's, but
Another 3
you're asking
classes.
a really good question, maybe 3 classes. You're asking a very good question, and it's addressed, but it's going to take us too far.
Oh, no.
Down
I
the
didn't even
rabbit
wanna take
hole.
the subject away. I really
No, but it's-
didn't,
But it's good. No, but it's good to pay attention because the word bria, the word creation, again, especially in the Torah language, refers to something from nothing.
Two points, just as far as like the rib. It says when you read the texture, it says, God took a rib from man and created a woman. So that's, I guess, why they take that.
Bara, or, oh,
I mean,
you say
it
that's-
says-
ויקח מן
it says
הצלע.
that ויפל השם לא מתקדם עליו, ויקח אחת מצערותיו. He took one of his ribs, צלעות his ribs. And then it says, ויבן השם אלוקים את הצלע, the rib that he took from Adam and created a woman and brought it to Adam. So, I mean, I know in Kabbalah, I'm very familiar with that fact, but I
Yeah.
understand why people will go with the thing, because it says it.
Can Sela also be from the side or no?
Tzela, I mean, tzela is a rib. You can get the ribs from the back, you can get to the ribs from the front. I mean,
Right.
that's how deep you go. And with God, it doesn't, doesn't matter where it's
Right.
If he took whatever he
That
took.
which chapter is that? Okay.
The Genesis, the
So chapter 1 may have a different narrative.
Well, chapter 1 says they created the Kabbalah Café.
Correct.
All creation were created man and woman.
Correct.
And here he said.
Could you read chapter 1 to me? Or do you have to?
We get-
It says the Kabbalah of Time, to check creation, but it didn't.
Male and female he
specify
created.
about man, it creates about all creation.
So the tree will create the seed.
And the people comes.
But that's probably what happened to mankind.
Doesn't
Of
say.
course, because I heard that
Wait, say that?
many, many times
What-
when I was as well.
23
Yeah, yeah.
feed.
Right. So who's doing that? Okay, so we'll get there in a second. Yeah. What's
The interesting thing, I was thinking about that, and thinking that the word bara and bria is really not used in Hebrew language at all, except for the creation. Because you can't use that word in anything that you do.
Right.
Yetzirah, yatzar, everything. Yatzar that, yatzar that. But
Okay.
you're not borei,
correct?
except when you're referring to Hashem.
Creation is, no, there's only one being has the power of creation
To use that
to
word.
actually create, real creation, and that is God. Yes.
Just
So-
one more question. In the story about taking the rib.
Yeah.
Does he use the word Yetzirah or when he's talking about creation?
Vayiven, it says he built.
It's, yeah.
He built.
What-
Vayiven, which he built.
Bonnet.
Oh,
Built.
interesting.
Built does not create, by the way.
No,
No,
Built
it's-
is-
It's yesh from yesh.
Yesh me yesh. It's yesh me yesh.
okay.
You already
Something
have
from something.
material.
You have the material, you build it out.
Shifted it around.
100%. Now, so let's get back to this idea because this is a very important. So and I want to go back to the flying rock, or let's talk about the flying football. You don't have two footballs. It's not like you have a football that rests and a football that flies. That's not one football. The only question is, did you overwhelm it against its teva, against its nature, or are you allowing it to be its nature? If God, so Kabbalah says, if God were to cease at any moment the process of creation, in other words, if God were to stop animating it, if God were to stop injecting it with light and with energy, even for one moment, the entire existence, imagine pulling the plug, right? That was not bad. The whole thing.
Very good, actually.
Thank you. I've been practicing all weekend. I'm kidding. Right? The whole thing, the whole operation would cease to be. In fact, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya goes even deeper in Shaykh Emunah. He says that not only would it cease to be from here on out, the entire history of it, it would be as if it never was. That's how undone it would be. Now, again, it's a little bit trippy. Why? Why not just say from now on it doesn't exist? Like we pulled the plug on the project. From now on, it's no longer this project of creation existed for a while, and now we decided not to renew the contract. Oh, let's bring back the reruns. Like it's like, oh, why'd they cancel Pick Your Favorite Show? Like, no, it's if the plug gets pulled, it's like it never existed. It's like it never was. Not like it will have. It's completely undone, which means that at every moment, here's what's going on. Now, this is trippy. I pull out my handy, not flip book, but my flip book prop. Okay, what does this mean? Let's break it down, and then I want to go to the really, really crazy thing. So what it means is that at every moment, God is, one second. Every moment of time is being individually created. It's not like God created time from at the beginning and everything is moving. For constant creation means exactly what it suggests. God is constantly creating and recreating, which means that no moment is truly fluid. Every moment is one frame at a time, but played in our reality, in our consciousness in rapid succession. It looks fluid to us, but it's really happening one frame at a time, one moment. And how do you define a moment? Very small fractions of time. One moment at a time, it's being recreated. But what's being created? The simple way to understand it is God creates one page at a time. One page at a time, right? God is animating one page at a time in rapid succession, creating this moment, creating that moment, creating the next moment. But that's not exactly it. It goes even deeper. Imagine the flip book. At every moment, you're creating the moment in front of you, but you're also creating the entire past of the book and the entire future. At every moment, you're creating a present, a past, and a future. And the past is consistent with the past. The future is consistent with the future based on the last past and now the present. And you're creating that at every single moment. Every single moment is not just creating the present moment frame. You're not just animating one frame at a time. Imagine if they were to play, if they were to Bugs Bunny, right? Bugs Bunny, the live show, the live animation show, and you would have like 1,000 animators or I guess animators quickly drawing it, and then it's playing in real time like that. That's not what it is. It's even deeper. It's at every moment, God is creating that frame. Also, the history, the past frames, and also the future frames that we don't have access to yet because we're not yet in the future. God stands beyond all of this, right? God stands, it's almost like if you're holding the flip book in your hand, if you're holding an actual flip book in your hand, you're not inside the flip book. The character at any given page, you stop it, the character's mid-run or mid-cycle. But you, right? But if you go all the way through, you are outside the book. You are outside. If you're holding a flip book in your hand, you're not subject. You're not inside that moment with the character. The character is being played. You're not, and maybe you're the one playing the character. When I say playing, moving, making the character move. You're not in there with the character. You're not stuck inside that. In fact, you can flip the flip book backwards if you wanted to. You can know the entirety of the narrative of that arc of the story. You can know it in totality outside of it. You're not in it with the character. You're outside of it.
But the past has been done, so it's not changing.
Correct. So when God creates every page, when God creates the page of the moment at that moment, because again, the nature of reality is non-existence, which means if God were to stop emanating, animating, projecting, energizing, the whole thing would collapse and be gone. So that means God is creating. What is God creating? Not just the individual frame, but also the past, consistent with what happened. and the future consistent with the potential future of what's going to happen. Now, this gets tricky, because what it means for us is that if we really take this to heart, it means that we are not actually stuck in the past. See, we think that we are slaves to the past, that what happened is real and it's fixed. If we realize that we are new creations, essentially, we are born again, that's a different, means something else, right? But if we are renewed, if our reality is renewed in this moment, I'm a brand new, I'm a bria chadasha, I'm a brand new creation, yesh me'ayin, from nothing. God has, not reanimated me, but God has animated me into being from scratch at this very moment, something, yesh me'ayin, from nothingness. Then it's almost like the slate is clear. Now, yes, there was a past created, but it's not the same type of gravitational pull as actually being tethered to a past. It's being recreated, yes, with a past, recreated, but recreated in the moment, and being able, therefore, to cut with the past and to chart a new future. This is the power. This is one of the upshots of this notion of constant creation, is the meditation that we are not truly stuck in the past. Yes, there is a past, but we're not stuck in the past as we would be if it was just, if time was like two-dimensional as we think it is, or whatever dimension we think it is. If it's just, if it's just fluid on that level, it was started, the clock started, and it's just moving forward, then yes, we're dragging along like ball and chain. We're dragging along like time, everywhere we go, in the past everywhere we go. But if we're created from nothing, what that means is there's a lightness about our being. Yes, the past was also created once again from nothing, but I have a new chance, a new shot. It's almost like, Rosh Hashanah. We say it's a new year. We clean the slate and we have a fresh start. The truth is, that's only because human beings need like big things to remind us. But in truth, Kabbalah says every moment is a Rosh Hashanah. Like, what's Rosh Hashanah? A new year. Guess what? It's a new moment right now. Literally a new moment. Create a new reality. You can break with the past. The past is not definitive. Yes, it's being created also, but it's being created to create something different for yourself.
Because it's past your past.
Correct.
So
You're adding another frame. Every frame that advances for the present means you're adding another frame to the past. Correct. Right. One frame goes back, and and the new frame gets created.
the past is
Correct.
not what it was yesterday.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you could say that also. The past is never going to be identical to what it was. It's going to be another piece of it. And I think the biggest point is that there's nothing that says in this moment that's freshly created for me, there's nothing that says that I can't make a radically different choice than what I've made in the past.
Including rethinking how you interpreted what happened.
100%. And that maybe is the biggest idea. The idea of tshuva. Tshuva is not necessarily are we going back and changing what we did, but we can change what it means based on what we did, right? Like if we did a certain action, we said or did something. Let's say that's absolute. It was done. It was said. It's fixed. Okay. But what does it mean? Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it depends on what happens next. I mean, in the moment, it might have been not a good thing, but if it leads to a greater breakthrough, then turns out we've redefined the past. And we can do that at every moment because, again, every moment is a new opportunity, it's not even a lease on life. It's a new life. It's a new reality every moment. This is the Kabbalistic idea of constant hithavut tmidit, constant creation, which is championed. It's in Kabbalah, but it was really championed, like really taught extensively by the Baal Shem Tov, and then really brought into philosophical words with the Alter Rebbe, again, the ones who celebrated their birthday yesterday.
What does Kabbalah think of parallel universe?
It's very interesting. Parallel universes. It's a very interesting topic. It's going to be a little bit outside of today's conversation, but to ask an adjacent question, are we in a simulation?
Take the blue pill or the
I'm
red
pretty
pill.
sure the answer is yes, in the sense, if you consider simulation a construct that is being created, etc., that we are inside, then
based on your thoughts.
I mean, God is creating the ultimate simulation. This is God's creation, right? I mean, God is creating something new, a new reality at every single moment.
This is not by Rod Serling?
I don't know.
You don't know Rod Serling is? The Twilight Zone.
Oh, ooh, what is that?
Think what
Okay.
psychologists could do with this concept.
Yeah, it would be very empowering if instead of saying you're stuck in your past because of this, that, and the other. Now, it's obviously it's easier said than done. But there's one thing that Kabbalah always, but to your point, because I agree with you, to your point, I think there is something very empowering by telling a person you have a brand new moment, a new opportunity, and something very disempowering by saying, based on the past, based on your past, you are pretty much predestined, or you're pretty much stuck in this certain way. One thing Kabbalah does, and I think does very well, is really open up possibilities. And that's really a mainstay of Kabbalah, is opening up possibilities and not keeping a person stuck. I think a lot, and I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not intending to put to speak definitively or in any way negatively, but the tendency to say, well, based on X, Y, or Z, what do you expect? That's not a Jewish position. It's not a Kabbalistic position. It's always like, yes, you may have had those experiences, or you may have those predispositions, but we have, Moach Shat HaLelev, the mind can control the heart. We have new moments every moment. We can choose to break with the past. It doesn't have definitive hold over us, etc.
I'm a little confused. I think God knows the end game.
Oh,
But
yes.
so how do we change? How as individuals will change?
Great question. Perfect.
Teshuva.
So no. But Larry's question is, wherein lies free choice if God's seen the book? And the answer is. I don't want to make it. It's a good question, but the way we understand it is that we are the character living one page at a time, one frame at one moment at a time. We're in the book. God is outside. God's knowledge of what we're going to choose is only because he's seen our choice in that moment already play out, because God is outside the book. Now that it's not going to make sense to the brain. It's going to hurt the brain. It's literally going to be painful to imagine I haven't yet made the choice, but God has seen me make the choice. That's because we're trying to apply linear time to God and keep God stuck in our reality. Yes, if God were riding the tandem bicycle next to us, if we take God and we shrink him down onto the page also, then he's stuck with us and he doesn't know what we're going to do on the next page, right? Just like we don't know what we're going to do until we make a decision, right? I could go this way or that way, right? We make a decision in the moment. How could God have possibly known? Because he already has the book. But it hasn't been written yet. Well, he's already seen it. He got a pre-release copy of your memoir. Like, he's already got the book. He's already seen the action. It's already played out on another reality. You talk about like parallel, like on another reality, this story's already played out.
He hasn't seen the book, you made it.
Also,
It's
yeah.
almost like those books that, like people want lately, some of the more sophisticated books have different endings. And when you read it to your kid,
Yeah.
at one page or another, he has a choice to make, and then you go to a different page.
Right.
So God, for each individual, has millions of books.
Do you understand how hard it is to be God?
Then it's the person there.
I wouldn't want the
You know
job.
how complicated it is to be God? You imagine how much you have to have. Imagine you have like 15 projects at one time. It seems very overwhelming. 15 projects with details. Imagine you billions of projects with all these sorts of details.
But he's God. He can handle it.
Correct. That's the truest answer. God can handle it. We believe in God.
I have a bigger question. I wonder, with the Alter Rebbe, how he taught this without the luxury of movie frames.
By the way,
still
I
frames.
had the same question.
I think they had to refer to books, maybe page in the book.
Not even.
They-
It was speak. That's why a lot of Kabbalah back in the day, all Kabbalah back in the day, was speaking in such abstract terminology. When you would read it, like, I don't know what it's saying. Now, first of all, Kabbalah was always speaking on that level, intentionally to keep it. But then Chassidus came along and said, no, we have to bring it down. Like Chabad is all about making sense intellectually. So let's bring these concepts down like intellectually. But the more time goes on, I think the more language we have, the more construct we have. Like, I was even speaking yesterday at Davening 101 a little bit for a few minutes about resurrection of the dead. How, like, back in the day, that might have seemed like resurrection of the dead from a little bone. Like, what are you even saying? Have you seen Jurassic Park? not that that's real, but like, You take DNA from a dinosaur and you create a new dinosaur. It's not as far-fetched as it might seem. Could you go from DNA and somehow build that out? At some point, the answer is going to be yes. Is God going to use that methodology? I have no idea. But it gives a little bit of a greater handle to understand. I agree with you. With light and film and projection and computers and all this stuff, this would be like it writes itself.
All for the coming of the Mashiach.
I would say something else. I would say, since we believe that every innovation in the world comes to innovation in Torah, I would say that the opening up of these ideas in Torah opened up also human wisdom to be able to create a lot of these technologies and to create, in other words, to create like a groundswell of the information age. I don't mean literal trade, right? But I mean the very good. No, true. But the opening up, it's like it's the Zohar says, right? Zohar, primary work of Kabbalah, says when it talks about the flood in Torah, how the waters, the heavenly waters opened, and then the waters from below also opened up. You have both the heavenly waters and the earthly waters. The idea that there's a correlation between the heavenly wisdom, divine wisdom, and human wisdom. I mean, you look at when when Chassidus really opens up, it's kind of like the mid-1800s. That's like around the Industrial Revolution. And then you have more and more, and it just kind of opens up, whether you call it in lockstep and tandem, or you say that Torah, the wisdom of Torah opening up allows the wisdom of human creativity and et cetera to open up. Yeah, that's probably more accurate, but either way, there's this conflict. Now, what I want to do actually is, I want to just quickly summarize what we've done, and then I want to jump in and we're going to finish the text. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to finish the discourse today, and it's going to end, I think, on a very inspiring note. But just to summarize quickly, the 30-second summary, we talked about time. And the first thing that we need to know about time is that we are stuck in time. We are in the flip book. Hashem is not, God is not inside. God is outside. For us to presume, for us to put God inside the book is to create God in our image. We never want to do that. God is outside time. God is beyond time, number one. Number two, time is a creation and something that is created constantly. It's no such thing as time is just moving fluid. Nothing is just fluid. Everything is being recreated, including time at every moment. Time is created with the present, a past, and a future at every moment, which means we can break with the past and choose a different future, a radically different future in the present now, or a different present in the present. Take and pass, please. We don't have, I don't know, for whatever reason, we don't have that many copies. I hope it's enough. If not, if you don't mind looking on with each other, and then I'm going to pull it up here as well. Okay, we're going to knock this out. That's the wrong way to say it, but we're going to finalize the last few. Yes.
And I always like to give my commentary on Twitter. They will say at any moment you change your thoughts, then it can change the
well, I think that's what we're saying here. When you change your perception, even of time itself, kind of a radical. Imagine if we looked at every moment as a new opportunity. That would be so empowering, as opposed to the disempowering narrative of time, is that it's just the same thing, just another moment of the same. That's very disempowering.
And the exact same event, the way you think about it can change.
Correct. It all begins with perception.
Yeah.
It literally begins with perception. Okay, here we go. We're on page 44. That's where we got up to last time. And I think it's important to recognize that we have been analyzing a Talmudic statement. And what I want to do here is, we're at the last two pages. So of this text, I want to read from. You don't have it in that copy, but I have it here in the book. So I'm going to read from Tractate Brachot from the Talmud, and here's how it goes. Our rabbis taught, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Until here, concentration of the heart is required. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi said the law accords with Rabbi Meir. So number one, Rabbi Meir says that when we say the Shema, we have to have a concentration of the heart, not just concentration of the mind, but it has to really impact us in the heart, not just intellectually, but also emotionally and viscerally. We have to really feel that God is one. Then the Talmud continues. Sumcha says, whoever prolongs echad has his days and years prolonged. If you say the word echad, if you prolong it, echad, right? If you go a little longer with echad, you'll have your days and years prolonged. And Rav Acha bar Yaakov said the letter that requires prolonging is the Dalet, the last letter, Echad, the Dalet. And Rav Ashi said, provided he does not hurry the pronunciation of the Ches. So we have a bunch of moving pieces with this. Number one, we're supposed to feel and concentrate on the Shema. Number two, say the last word slowly. Number three, specifically say the last letter, Dalet, slowly. And number four, don't hurry over the Ches either. Make sure you say that also with concentration and also slowly. So here we go. This then, top of 44. This then is the meaning of Rav Acha bar Yaakov's statement, and that is the Dalet, that the prolongation of the word Echad lies primarily in the Dalet. Why? Dalet refers to the four directions of the earth, space. We're not in time yet, space. Some people are mistaken in this respect and excuse their laxity, and to excuse their laxity, they devise absurd rationalization. And just to explain what that means, basically, some people say, well, if I lived in the shtetl, I lived in the shtetl, then obviously I would be like super Jew. Yeah, obviously I would be like all in. If I lived in a different place, if I lived in Brooklyn or Williamsburg or Mea Shearim, of course I would. But I live in Atlanta. Like, what do you expect? Then it's the place that's causing me to be where I am and who I am. It's that, again, the letter Dalet is four directions, north, east, south, west. It's a reference to space. Some people say my space is what's causing me to be where I am and who I am. And he's saying, no, don't blame it on your space. The point is God is one everywhere, whether you're in Mea Shearim or whether you're in Sandy Springs, Atlanta, right? Sandy Springs, Georgia. Echad, God is one everywhere. God is not only in the shtetl, is not only in whatever, he's everywhere. And this was again said in 1930 in Chicago. This is like America, 1930 Chicago. What does it look like? I don't know, a bunch of gangsters roaming, I assume, right? With nice nice suits, Al Capone and his friends. And like here you have an old school rabbi from Europe coming across the Atlantic Ocean and saying, and this is the message he's delivering: don't blame Chicago. Don't say, I can't go to shul. I'm in Chicago, 1930. It's God is everywhere, including in Chicago, right? Make it happen. But he doesn't say it like that. He says it lovingly, not like hard. I was saying it a little harsh. He's not saying it harsh. He's saying, let's go. And Rav Ashi say, right? That's Rav Acha says, that remember to emphasize the Dalet. Rav Acha says, provided he does not hurry the Ches. Listen to this. This is it's so touching. It's like so powerful. The letter Chet. The letter Chet, the numerical value of Chet is 8. Good, 8. The Chet, it says right here, whose numerical value is 8, alludes to, so the Dalet for Dalet, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet is 4 directions. What's the Chet, which is 8? It alludes to the 7 firmaments, 7 heavens, and to earth. Listen to this. So what's the meditation of the Chet, of Echad? Echad is like this. A person should take the heart, and not just an intellectual meditation of the heart. Right? A person should take the heart that the soul descends into the body, descends through the 7 heavens and down to earth. Imagine like going down, falling through. Imagine, remember that guy that jumped from space a few years ago? Felix Baumgartner sounded very Jewish, like a guy that I used to know from Grand Heights, but wasn't. Guy who jumped the Red Bull jump, whatever, they filmed it and everything. Right? Imagine the soul is falling from heaven through the 7 heavens, 8, 7, or 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then earth, 8 levels. The soul descends into the body back inside. Why? To fulfill the purpose of creation. And what is that purpose? As he continues inside, that God desired an abode, a home in the lower realms. This is the idea of the 7 firmaments and earth, which is 8, 7 plus 1. The soul's descent from the 7 firmaments, heaven, to earth, to be vested within a physical body, is for the subsequent ascent that occurs when man engages in the study of Torah and the observance of mitzvot on this physical earth. Why did the soul come down? To get stronger, to rise higher. The soul didn't come down just to be relegated to a dark and cold place. The soul comes down to be elevated to a higher reality. Let's continue. And this is where we get to time. Not exactly. On the verse, that's the reincarnation. On the verse, is not man on earth for a limited time, and are his days not like the days of a hired worker, which comes from the book of Job. Rashi comments, that just like a hired worker contracted for a year realizes that his time will eventually run out, similarly, every person should consider that he too, or she too, was given an allotted time, a number of years to live in this world. The days and years of each and every person is measured. As it says, days have been formed. It is also written, you shall therefore observe the commandments, the statutes, and the ordinances which I command you this day to do them. Hayom la'asotam. Torah study, to know how to act, and practical mitzvah observance, meaning acting on our knowledge, are possible only in this world. And it was to this end that the soul descended below. The soul finds itself in time and space. Space, wherever we are, needs to be divine. And time, whatever moment we have, needs to be invested in holiness. Let's continue. Thus, this is the meaning of what the Talmud says, that when you're ma'irach ba'echad, when you prolong the word echad, and you emphasize the daled, which means that wherever I am in the world, God is here. God does not take vacation, even when I go to the Bahamas. I go to the Bahamas, you know what? I checked my Judaism when I check my bags, and it's not going to show up until after my vacation because I'm in the Bahamas. No. The Dalit, God is everywhere. But even as you remember God is everywhere, don't forget about the chet. What's the chet? A man back inside. A man must not forget the truth as to why he came into the world. The Dalit tells you that everywhere you have a mission. And the chet reminds you what the mission is. And what is the mission? My soul came down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heavens down into the earth. Why? To make this world a home for God through Torah study and mitzvah performance. And if he is genuinely engrossed in this truth, then he will automatically prolong the Dalit. If you know why you came into the world, if you have a mission, then you will be driven to perform the mission wherever you are. You see that idea? If you believe that you have a mission, then even when you're on vacation, you'll do your mission. If you don't believe, if you're not sure if you have a mission, then we can take a vacation. If you know the ches or the chet, if you know the 8, then if you have the 8, you'll have the 4. That's his idea. And back inside, wherever he finds himself, he will study the Torah and observe its mitzvot. Wherever he finds himself. He's talking to the Jews in Chicago. He says, if you believe that your soul was sent to this world for a purpose, then Chicago is not different than Warsaw. Chicago is not different than Lubavitch in Russia. There's no difference between Chicago and the old country if you believe that you have a mission back inside. And whoever prolongs the echad, meaning whoever devotes and dedicates himself to extend the oneness of God by publicizing God in the world, has his days and years prolonged. Right? As Simcha says, the Holy One, blessed be he, grants the person longevity with years of goodness illuminated with the light of Torah and divine service, so that he will succeed in his divine service in order to accomplish the true intent of creation, to make a dwelling place for God in this world, which means the Shema is a meditation, not just of the head, but of the heart. We're meant to take it to heart and to act on it. And what's the meditation? Number 1, God is everywhere. Right? God is everywhere. There's no vacation from God. There's no space in which God isn't, and therefore it doesn't matter. It's every place is significant. And what's the significance? I have an opportunity to fulfill my mission. So that's the 4 and the 8. The 8 is my mission. The 4 is where I do my mission. And when we prolong the echad, meaning we recognize that we're here for a purpose, and we also recognize that the purpose is in every space, then ma'irichin lo yamim v'shanim, then we have long days and long years. Hashem gives us the time that we need to indeed fulfill our mission. And it concludes with a blessing. May the Almighty grant us all, among all of Israel, long life, enabling us to disseminate the teachings of Torah and its study, and to attract people to be involved in the service of the heart prayer, so that we merit to achieve God's objective, doing so with an abundance of everything good, materially and spiritually. And let us say, Amen. Beautiful bracha at the end. And I think just to me, this text is such gold. It's so beautiful because it's so practical. You can do this every day, twice a day, every time you say the Shema. I mean, you're covering your eyes anyway. Might as well meditate for a moment and think. What's the meditation? Think about God sent my soul down through the 7 heavens into this earth 8. That's the ches of echad. That's the ches. right? God sent me down here, sent my soul here for a purpose. And that makes me an ambassador of God. Where am I an ambassador? Wherever I go. I'm representing the God Squad. I saw Scott this morning, right? With a Chai shirt. So I said, Chai back. I'm kidding. I said, hello. Huh?
How are you?
How are you? No, but that's an ambassador. An ambassador, someone who wears their Yiddishkeit proudly. Someone who says, I'm a proud Jew. I have a mission. I'm here for a purpose. And we're not hiding. We're not, pretending we're not. So this is who we are. We're a Yid. We're a Jew. We have a mission. Torah, mitzvot, wherever. So whether we find ourselves in an environment, what we would call maybe a spiritually conducive environment or a non-spiritually conducive environment, the point of an ambassador is to shine the light wherever we are. And that's our mission. And so this is a meditation of Shema. When we close our eyes and we cover our eyes with our hand, extra concentration, and we say the Shema, we meditate on the fact that God is one, that God has sent us on a mission into this world. It's the Ches, right? The Aleph is God is one. Echad, the last word, right? Echad, the Aleph of Echad is one. Aleph is one. Oneness of God. And that one God sent our soul down through the 7 heavens into this earth for a purpose, and that purpose is accomplished wherever we are. There's no vacations from God, no vacations from purpose. We're all here for a reason. And when we commit ourselves to that, then we ensure the blessings of God, many years, many days, many years, and enough time to fulfill our mission. And all of it comes back to time. Time is a gift. Time is precious. We should never see any place as devoid of meaning, nor any time devoid of meaning. There's no such thing in Judaism called killing time. Killing time. Kill that. I had some time to kill before my meeting. Some time to kill. 30 minutes to kill. 30 minutes to you killed 30 minutes? Geval. Should we notify next of kin? I mean, like, what's it? You killed 30 minutes?
I mean, next of min.
Next of min. Oh, very good. Right. Minute. So, like, the point is, if it's created by God, it has a purpose. Just like every space, the Dalet has a purpose. Time also has a purpose. So we should view time the way it needs to be viewed, which is preciously. And may we indeed infuse every moment with spirit and meaning. And as the blessing concludes, and may God provide us with all of the resources we need, the material resources, the spiritual resources, everything we need to get our mission done in this world, and to do so in a way of happiness and joy. Yesterday we read in the Torah, part of the Tochacha, problems begin when we don't serve God with joy. Serving God with joy means gratitude. Gratitude for what we have, appreciating every moment, appreciating the relationships we have and the opportunities we have, and then making the most of it. And so my blessing for all of us as we head into the new year is, we should think about the time that we have. We should think about the opportunities we have and where we are, and indeed commit ourselves to being ambassadors of God on this beautiful earth. May God give us blessings. May God protect Israel. We need a lot of blessings in that regard as well. And may our brothers and sisters be safe. May the land be safe. And may we all be blessed in this new year. Amen.
Amen. Is there any relationship?
Amen. Beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any relationship between the 10 utterances and 10 people needed for a minyan? Or that's just
Interesting.
coincidence?
There's a connection between, I don't know, I'm not sure. That's a good
Oh,
question.
according to Kabbalah, there's a connection between everything.
There always is. 10 and 10, it's probably connected. I will say this, next week, the plan is we're starting a new discourse. Now, what it is, I can't tell you yet. For the simple reason, it wasn't created yet, right? Conceptually, next week doesn't exist yet. Oh, it was created, but now the next week that's next week, it doesn't exist now. Does that make sense?
Right.
The next week that is next week doesn't exist. Oh, the recipe. You guys ready?
No.
5 pounds of potatoes, 3 pounds of onions, 4 eggs. Yeah, I'll send you the recipe. Okay, good. Yeah, we'll put stuff away. All right, next week we're gonna do a text, presumably related to the high holiday season, but I'll decide over the next few days, and
So does
whatever we do will be enjoyable, huh?
Does God already know what's going to happen in this room?
Yeah, God even knows what I'm gonna choose to study next week, even though I haven't chosen it yet.
How do you,
Yes.
I was already going.
No. We have to pray because he knows that we're gonna pray. Don't let him down. He knows you're gonna pray. Don't not pray now. Yeah, hold on. Who was saying something? Mariana.
Yes, there is any chance to see the class of Tuesday? Like where is the place to go to see like the record classes or?
Oh, are you talking about the Torah, the Parashah classes?
Yes, the
Okay.
last one.
The last one. Okay, I'm
Tuesday?
going to send you a link. It's on YouTube. We have a specific playlist for the Parashah classes, for the Tuesday night classes. But
Fantastic.
I'll send you a link. That way you can grab it.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Regards to everybody. Give regards to Alex and to Ian.
Thank
and
you.
Baby.
Yeah, yesterday was like a month, and they did like it's a tradition. Like they say something like it's like a celebration.
Oh, you did the pig in that band?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's beautiful. We did that for Nussin. Nice.
Yeah.
No, they with the Kohen and all that stuff.
Yes, with the coin and with
the coins.
with all that. Yes, and it's very and as for the record of your class, because came the father of Racheli, the mother of the baby, and he's a rabbi, but he's from Aish, and all the time I talk about Kabbalah and your classes, and I say, tell me, what are you learning? Because all the time you talk me so much about that. And he wanted to see like a class or something.
Nice. Perfect. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you the link right after the class.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the celebration was beautiful.
It's a funny thing. If you read the text of the dialogue,
yes,
you basically say, hey, good to see you, Rabbi. Good morning. Good morning. Give me 1 second. So basically we say, the father says, this is my child born, my firstborn child. And the Kohen says, which one would you rather have? Your child or the 5 coins that you need to pay for the redemption? And the father says, I'll take my kid, you take the coins. And it's such a funny, little play that we do. But the message is, we got to prioritize the family over the coins. Sometimes it's, anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful custom and tradition. And indeed, many, many more milestones and blessings.
Thank you. Amen. Amen.
All right. Great to see everybody. Dr. Maxey, great to see you. Larry, great to see you. Ellen, great to see you. I don't know if I said hi earlier. Great to see you. Matt, great to see you. David, great to see you. Frank, great to see you. And Ray, we didn't welcome Ray. I didn't see you in the corner over there. Not in the corner, not actually in the corner, but in the corner of my screen. Ray, great to see you. Only in good health. With God's blessings. All right. We'll see you guys. Shavua Tov. And we'll see you soon. Okay, everybody.